manual progressive feed die cutting system, or P-feed, is a cost-effective cutting system for all man-made materials. Large area cutting dies with markers up to 6 meters long are easily maneuvered manually through the press system. The process begins with the layup of your material. This can be done manually as shown, or with automated spreaders. A manual P-feed system can cut both laminated and unlaminated material. Once the die is prepared, the die and stacked material are transferred together to the in-feed staging area of the press. The press operation handle is attached to the die board, and the operator begins the cut cycle by pushing the die and material into the press. As the die board is drawn back through the machine in steps, the operator stops at predetermined points to operate the press head. A safe 2-button system in the handle is depressed, and the press head activates to cut through the material. The system uses simple hydraulic presses that range in tonnage between 1 and 200 tons, and multiple layers of laminated and non-laminated materials are cut quickly and accurately. The system is outfitted with a full complement of protective guarding to ensure worker safety. The number of layers that can be processed in one cycle will depend on the die height and the material being cut. For the purposes of this demonstration, the guarding has been disabled to allow an unobstructed view. The cutting die with the steel edge facing upwards cuts up through the material as the press head forces the material down over the blades. The die steel penetrates through the material and into a polypropylene block or cutting pad that is mounted into the head of the press. This method of soft pad cutting ensures complete and accurate cutting of all layers of the material stack and eliminates premature die wear. With a closer look at the cutting cycle, you can see that the powerful cutting stroke of the press head and mounted cutting pad compress the material and force it over the cutting edge of the die. When the cycle is completed, the die is stripped of the cut parts and scrap. Our customers tell us that because materials are the most expensive item in their factory, material efficiency is their #1 issue. Ontario Die has responded by minimizing buffers between patterns at just 0 to 1.5 millimeters. Die storage is an important element of die cutting. Here you can see an example of a horizontal storage system using a hydraulic lifting table that allows a single operator to change dies quickly and easily. A die change starts with the operator moving the die from the cutting area onto the lifting table. The lifting table is then directed up or down to the appropriate storage slot in the die rack, and the die is transferred by hand into its own protective holding area. The empty lifting table is then moved to the slot containing the new die. When aligned, the new die is moved by hand onto the lifting table, which at that point is then brought to level with the transfer table. Then the die is moved into the material layup area to be loaded with fresh material and begin the cutting cycle again. There are variations of horizontal and vertical storage systems, and the choice of which to use will depend on your system layout and floor space restrictions. Ontario Die